Bobbi Althoff is allegedly an e-celebrity that is on a relevancy downward spiral despite what feels like an endless effort by multinational media companies to keep her relevant. Since her days of interviewing massive figures like Drake, Mark Cuban, and Shaq, Bobbi has tried, keyword tried, to launch several podcasts that have failed so badly one couldn't even get 500 views within an hour.
Do you remember how well I was doing 2 years ago?
You were huge.
Yeah,
And now you feel irrelevant,
I am.
obsolete,
Yeah.
unpopular,
Thank you.
broke,
I'm all of those
tossed
things.
aside.
All while this is happening, different tabloids have been running sympathetic pieces framing her declining popularity as a reset and a fresh new start. Even the people she interviews comment on how bad she's failing. Kevin Durant even told her it to her face.
You the hottest out.
I was what?
You the hottest white girl out at the time. I don't know, but you were kind of hot for
And then they just all thought it was me.
Through all of this, she often gets emotional and breaks down over what's being said about her and her boyfriend, which only adds to the sense that things aren't going the way she'd hoped. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today, we're going to explore what Bobbi Althoff has been up to, and find out if she's overhated for being boring, or is truly an industry plant. For those of you that don't know anything about Bobbi, consider yourself lucky. Bobbi first gained attention on TikTok making parenting content with her husband. The videos were simple and a little awkward, but that awkward delivery became her appeal. She leaned into dry humor and a blunt tone that made people stop and watch. With consistent posting, she grew quickly, reaching over 3 million followers between 2021 and 2023. Her content during that stretch felt built around going viral while staying accessible to a wide audience. In April 2023, she moved into podcasting with The Really Good Podcast. An early interview with Colleen Ballinger showed how her style could create tension, but it was her conversation with Funny Marco that really took off. That episode spread across social media and brought in millions of views, helping define her as someone who could turn uncomfortable moments into viral content. It is almost uncanny that this exact phenotype of a person would catch on and become an actual type of personality that people nowadays make fun of. Not exactly to a T, but the deadpan, zoomer words were definitely a foundation for this type of person.
Wait, I'm screaming.
Wait, same.
Oh,
Literally.
wait, it's giving icon.
No, because you're giving diva.
Clock it, clock it.
Everything escalated when she landed an interview with Drake. The way she spoke to him was with her same deadpan character that seemed to keep Drake entertained throughout the interview. It pulled in around 10 million views and brought a surge of attention to her platform. At that point, it seemed like she could book almost anyone. At the same time, the interview sparked criticism. Some viewers felt her tone came off as flirtatious, and one moment where she said she was missing her daughter's first birthday to sit with him drew particular backlash.
You missed your daughter's first birthday for
To be here.
Dark. Regret that you'll never be able to undo.
Yeah.
Horrible parenting.
Around that point, her husband had already filed for divorce, which led to speculation about her personal life. There were also questions about how the interview came together so quickly, especially after she signed with the same agency that represents Drake. This momentum from Drake didn't last, and her interview with Offset marked a shift. Instead of controlling the conversation, she was met with the exact same energy she usually gave her guests. He pushed back, joked at her expense, and changed the tone entirely.
You need a little bit of seasoning. You ain't got no seasoning, man. You like a plain piece of chicken just on the thing, you pull it off, and then you serve the dish. You need some motherfucking seasoning, man. Damn, I'm trying to get you to play. You lost in the sauce. You ain't shaking my hand. We finna get you to 25 million. You know what I'm saying? Just a little
Have
sprinkle
a great day,
of seasoning.
Offset.
Just a little seasoning.
All right, you can leave now.
This is my hotel. I paid for this motherfucker. You can leave now.
While the clips went viral, the reaction leaned against her. Many viewers enjoyed seeing her on the receiving end, and it showed the growing fatigue with her approach. By early 2024, her views had already dropped sharply, with a mounting criticism including accusations that her rise felt manufactured. Her responses also often made things worse, as pushing back at critics and dismissing feedback added to the perception that she was out of touch. In September 2025, she relaunched her podcast podcast and surprised people by bringing Drake back for another interview. The new interview performed well and briefly brought her back into the spotlight. Even so, the way Drake and her acted in bed made it seem like they were 30 seconds away from getting it on once the cameras turned off, which led to several comments saying Bobbi was sleeping her way to success. I feel like a third wheel watching this. I didn't take you off, you fell off. Drake is a menace. One thing that really defines Bobbi's whole image is this I don't care what people think attitude. That's the version of herself she's shown online. Of course, it's not completely real. Nobody is immune to other people's opinions. But it's the role she leaned into. And as things play out, that image starts to crack. After the Drake episode dropped, it pulled in about 3.3 million views, and looked like the boost she needed to launch the podcast. On paper, it should have set everything up. What actually followed was a steady drop. The KD episode garnered around 769,000 views. The Kevin Gates one fell to 173,000. The Trevor Wallace episode only got 136,000. And now the Bert Kreischer episode is sitting at a pitiful 35,000 views. There were even a couple episodes that performed worse and got deleted, but we'll get to those in a second. A drop after a viral video is normal. When something blows up, only a portion of that audience sticks around. If people like you and the content holds up, you usually keep a decent chunk of them. That just hasn't happened here. The numbers show that most viewers came for Drake and didn't feel a reason to stay. And to be honest, that makes complete sense. Drake is one of the biggest names on the planet. He brings in attention on his own. Even if the format stayed exactly the same, stronger questions, better pacing, or just a more engaging presence could have convinced more people to subscribe. And there lies the problem. When she's not playing her deadpan character, hell, even when she's playing her deadpan character, the gimmick gets old and the layer of irony gets shed and reveals a boring person underneath. Back to those 2 deleted episodes, currently they are not accessible because my research team is very bad at their job, and they're currently being put into a grape press. It's only through word of mouth that Bobbi had 2 interviews after her second Drake interview that got under 10,000 views, but it's something that is very likely. Bobbi Althoff has a tendency to delete content that does poorly in the views department. She's even admitted to this in an interview before.
10, 15, 20 videos a day, getting no views. And I thought it was so cringe, but I was like, well, whatever. I would delete them, of course, after a day because I didn't want to leave a history of me failing. I was not going to let them see that for long, but I had a thing that was like, if in 24 hours it doesn't go viral, it gets deleted.
This goes against literally her entire brand and persona that she has portrayed online, and comes across as putting on a mask to people that found that quality about her endearing. You can see the insecurity dripping out of her during all of her new interviews, and it becomes off-putting to viewers that want to see the opposite. Even on her own channel, she gets roasted by people like Kevin Durant.
You the hottest out.
I was what?
You're the hottest white girl out at the time. I don't know, but you were kind of hot for
that, like and then they just all thought it was me.
To try combating this, Bobbi has implemented a new strategy that many have tried and none have succeeded at, which is to acknowledge how much she has fallen off, and direct more attention to it, hoping it will have the opposite effect, when in reality, it just cements the public's perspective that she's a has-been. It's like peeing your pants in public, and instead of going to get a new pair of pants, you grab a megaphone and announce it to the entire library that you have pissed your pants and to come check it out. One of the rules of being an e-celeb that should be carved into the 10 commandments of online content creation is at some point, you can't read your comments, especially if you are easily flustered. It's something echoed by literally every content creator out there, and it's pretty easy to do once you have the hang of things. Bobbi does the opposite. She even said that she watched a 45-minute YouTube video talking about her downfall, so there's even a chance that she could be watching this right now. Hi, Bobbi.
Do you remember how well I was doing 2 years ago?
You were huge.
Yeah.
And now you feel irrelevant,
I am.
obsolete,
Yeah.
unpopular,
Yeah, thank you.
broke,
I am all of those
tossed
things.
aside.
Yeah.
This anger and inability to take criticism eventually flooded out when she would go onto TikTok crying about how whenever she posts her boyfriend, all the comments talk about how she's run through.
Today I posted a video of me and my boyfriend.
And so many of the comments every single time I post him, which we've been together for a year, but without fail, every single time I post him, all of the comments are about how I'm ran through, and oh, look, another one, or he probably doesn't know how ran through she is, or just mean. Sometimes it's like especially harder like on Sundays. I don't have my kids, they're with their dad, and I get to sit here and I read comments and I shouldn't, but it's like, it's so hurtful.
In a rare shift from her usual content, Bobbi used her platform to speak on something more serious. After a close family friend, Felix Gomez, was detained by ICE outside a Home Depot in Corona, California, she took that situation and made it public. She filmed outside the ICE detention center in Adelanto, where he was being held, standing alongside his niece and his pastor. At one point, she said that people had warned her to stay away from politics if she wanted to keep making the same money online. She then admitted that she had voted for Trump in the first election, and that he should come on her awesome new podcast to talk about stuff, stating, "I think that perhaps you surround yourself with people who agree with you, and maybe you need to hear another perspective." Up until this point, anyone assessing Bobbi's situation would assume that her career kept sliding into more irrelevancy. And while that kind of seems to be the case, it also isn't at the same time. I call this phenomenon Schrodinger's e-celebrity, the state in which a particular online celebrity is irrelevant in terms of pure metrics and view count, but still gets articles written, obtains brand deals, and generally financially profits from endeavors usually only reserved for A-listers. Around the same time Bobbi announced season 2 of her podcast, several tabloid outlets all ran pieces painting Bobbi in a sympathetic light, all while ignoring the deleted episodes, metrics, and dwindling view counts, of course. The amount of glazing in these articles is next level. They even included romanticized beauty shots where she poses dramatically for the camera, with the Ellie article stating, "In the 2 years between Drake episodes 1 and 2, Althoff has been exposed to a lot. Her daily life has remained steady in many ways. If she's not working, she's usually at home with her 2 daughters and her boyfriend Tyler Hawkins, a basketball player in the NBA's G League, and she's remained close with the same friend group she had pre-TikTok. She's found she loves interviewing people, and has developed real connections with some of the celebrities that have been on her show. These articles were just the start too. Adore Me, a lingerie company, announced their new collection of Valentine's Day apparel featuring Bobbi. Netflix announced that Bobbi would be starring in their comedy special Netflix is a Joke, selling tickets for $93 and performing her show to a live audience. Protagonist Pictures announced Bobbi would be starring in a new rom-com called Love Language. This all sounds like a joke the more I read, but I promise it's all real. Finally, to round it off, she announced a development deal to produce, write, and star in a TV comedy, which she describes as a cross between Dave and The Office, based loosely on her own rise to fame. And her other new podcast featuring a co-host that she went viral with a year ago.
Hi guys, welcome to our show.
Welcome to our show.
What's it called? Suki, should we say it at the same
It's
time?
called See This, That Bullshit.
That's not what it's called.
See This, That BS.
Seeing all these brand deals, roles, shows, promotions all lined up together looks absurd just thinking about it. The disconnect between the amount of people that watch her on YouTube is just so severe that you have to think whoever is giving her these roles needs to be fired. But it's somehow still happening. Immediately, a massive question rose to thousands of viewers' minds. How? How is this even possible? How does the girl that can't even crack 100k views get a Netflix deal, a TV show, and a brand promotion? To answer that question, we first must go back to a year before all of this was announced. As I covered on my previous videos, for a majority of her career, Bobbi has been signed to the WME Talent Agency, the same agency that covers Drake. In November of 2024, she would switch agencies and get signed into UTA. Big names under UTA include Timothée Chalamet, Seth Rogen, 21 Savage, and Kylie Minogue. This is not some small talent agency. This is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate with money to throw around. I'm sure you can connect the dots from there. It's very likely that her new talent agency wants to make good on their investment. so there's a non-zero chance that they pulled some strings to get tabloids making nice articles about her, as well as landing her deals with Netflix and rom-com shows. It could also be that by being in the LA world for enough time, Bobbi had made enough connections and met the right people to just get lucky enough landing these roles. Realistically, it's a combination of both. At this point, it's hard to imagine that Bobbi will drop anything that changes the narrative surrounding her. People already have their opinions locked in. And when it comes to the whole industry plant conversation, this is where it gets interesting. People love to throw around the word industry plant. They say it about everyone. You hear it with streamers like Kai Cenat and a bunch of others. Most of the time, it's just noise. But in Bobbi's case, there might actually be something to it. Not just in the way people usually mean it. Industry plant isn't the right word. It's more like industry investment. Someone that a big corporation doesn't want to lose money on. It doesn't feel like she was planted from day one. She clearly built something on her own early on with her TikTok growth. Where things start to shift is after she got picked up by a major talent agency. That's when everything accelerated way too fast. Suddenly, she had access to people and platforms that didn't really line up with where she was at. That probably explains how she landed interviews with someone like Drake, and even got coverage from outlets that normally wouldn't give her a second look. That's not even mentioning she's getting Netflix bookings, South by Southwest film premieres, Forbes 30 Under 30, and coordinated press campaigns across LA and People, all while her podcast episodes are averaging under 200,000 views, and she's quietly deleting the ones that bomb. The access she has versus the audience she commands is completely out of proportion, and that disconnect is worth making explicit. It's not like people are calling her an industry plant as a throwaway insult anymore. The evidence is in the numbers. It really does feel like there was a push happening behind the scenes, like her agency saw potential, saw the numbers, and tried to fast-track her into something bigger. And to be fair, that's not unusual. Agencies do it all the time. The difference here is that the audience didn't fully buy into it. On top of that, the style she was known for wasn't exactly new. That awkward, uncomfortable interview approach has been done before, and done really well. You look at people like Eric Andre or even Matan Evan, and they've pushed that concept way further. So when Bobbi came in with her version of it, it felt like something people had already seen, just packaged differently. Some people theorize that it could be a situation like a show similar to Star Trek or any legacy media properties. In some cases, shows like New Star Trek can barely crack 100k, much less even 50k, but for some reason, they still get renewed for more and more seasons. Maybe it's a situation like that.
The viewership on like the Strange New Worlds program, it's in like the thousands.
Oh my God.
Maybe tens of thousands.
Okay.
Like a very, very low-end YouTube channel.
The issue is that brands like Star Trek could still be profitable with other venues like merch, collaborations, and just owning the star power of the brand. But what does Bobbi Althoff have? The conclusion I'm forced to come to is that she very likely is genuinely an industry plant, or at least heavily boosted artificially by mega conglomerates to probably get a better return on investment. Or maybe she's just friends with someone at these companies. It's hard to say. Maybe there's an entire secret industry dedicated towards making fake celebrities. Also, Maria Menounos and the Cheddar News guy at Quick Trip have something to talk about. You could make theories till you go crazy. In the end, Bobbi's story feels like someone who built a small following, got picked up by a massive machine, and then got overwhelmed by how fast everything moved. That jump from regular creator to full-blown internet celebrity happened too quickly, and it didn't leave much room to actually grow into it. That's the part people don't really talk about. The slow climb matters. That's what teaches you how to handle attention, criticism, and pressure. When that process gets skipped, it catches up to you, and that's kind of where she ended up. Constant backlash, constant scrutiny, and no real way to step away from it because everything is public. At the end of the day, not everyone is built for that kind of life. Being an internet celebrity sounds great until it actually happens. For some people, it works out. For others, it doesn't. And sometimes, staying a normal person is the better outcome.